my name's Dale and this is Dale's Addiction. Today I'm bringing you the Inside the YouTube Studio tag created by my great friend here and in real life, Meredith from Living Lux by Meredith. Now, this tag was inspired by Inside the Actors Studio, and Meredith and I had a talk about replacing this month's Q&A with this tag video, and I thought it was a great idea. We do get quite a few repetitive questions on the monthly Q&A, which I don't really mind at all because that means that maybe you missed my last video or maybe you're new here, and if that is the case, yeah, I'm Dale. I like luxury things. It's called Dale's Addiction for a reason. I won't apologise for it. If you feel like they are fickle, inappropriate, and, you know, sickeningly expensive habits that I have and it turns you right off, then absolutely turn off the channel because I will not apologise. This is what I love talking about, and I've met so many fabulous people, including Meredith, talking about these things that we love. So thanks for tuning in. I don't know how long this is going to take. I've not put any thought to the questions, so I am just going to roll with it and we'll see how it goes. So the first question: which designers and design houses have made the greatest impact on your fashion choices and purchases? Oh, I think that's like 5 questions rolled into one, to be honest. Design houses that have had the greatest impact on my fashion choices are not necessarily the ones that I buy a lot of, I think. If I look at, for example, say Gucci, under Alessandro Michele, I actually think it has a big impact on how I dress because of the colours and the playfulness. I don't see a lot of other houses that are as playful, or designers anyway, that are as playful. But I don't buy a lot of Gucci, interestingly, because I think maybe it's just a little too much for me. I don't know. I think I've talked about it previously that Gucci is a brand that I'm enamored with, in that I love to go and check out their boutique. It's a fabulous experience to go into Gucci when there's no lines, and when I get in there I fawn over many things but I rarely buy anything, but I feel like it does inform a lot of my fashion choices. In terms of my purchases, I think it goes without saying how passionate I am about Fendi and the House of Fendi, and Karl Lagerfeld was a massive part of Fendi. In fact, over half of Fendi's existence, Karl was a creative designer there for like, I think it was 54 or 56 years. And Silvia Venturini Fendi, the creator of both the baguette and the peekaboo, she grew up with Karl and she is a creative director at Fendi still, and even though she's kind of had this quiet presence in the background, I feel like the House of Fendi, in terms of it's so authentic. I mean, there's so many controversial things about Fendi in terms of its commitment to exotics and fur when other houses don't do that anymore. It always pushes the envelope in terms of design and colour, and even though it has its classic staples, they're modern classics. And I think the House of Fendi itself, in terms of classics, are the materials it uses and the way that it puts together its pieces rather than the pieces themselves, if that makes any sense. The very fact that the FF Zucker print logo stands for Fendi Fur or Fun Furs, I think that, you know, that was Karl, and he was so serious at Chanel, yet so playful at Fendi. So yeah, it's a bit of a bitsy kind of answer for you, but hopefully it kind of gives you some insight into why I dress the way I do and why I buy the things that I buy. What turns you on creatively? Well, it's interesting actually. Creatively, I'm a very aesthetically motivated person, so I like things to look beautiful and interesting. I like things that are textural. I like things that are incomplete. If you watch Meredith's video, you're going to understand that this would drive her nuts. I like asymmetrical. I like, I think I've talked about it before, I prefer my teeth being slightly crooked than perfectly straight, like when I got my braces off. Creatively, in terms of food, I love juxtapositions in food. I like playing around with savoury ingredients in desserts and vice versa. I like things that don't seem like they would go together, being together. One of my favourite Christmases was with a great friend of mine, and we both love cooking, and we're both really relaxed and just creative cooks, and we've got some skills, but you know, we're not experts. My husband and I flew in Christmas Eve. We arrived about 12 o'clock. We had a late brunch. We finished at 2, and then we went shopping for Christmas dinner ingredients, and we just had to go with whatever we could find. And we pulled together this amazing feast from things we wouldn't have ordinarily bought because we would have been way more organised. And the flavour combinations we had, roast rack of pork with the most amazing crackle, and instead of doing applesauce we did pineapple salsa with pineapple and palm sugar and mint leaves and chili. Oh, it makes me smile just thinking about it. So yeah, creative is unexpected for me. What turns you off? Well, kind of the opposite of that question. So things that are predictable, expected, done before. Classic. I hate to say I do love classics, but I have mentioned before I love classics in unexpected colorways or textures or fabrics. There are things that I like done in a classic way, but I'm always so much more excited. You know, beef tartare, another example. You know, you can go to a French restaurant and the beef tartare will be exactly the same as the next place. And then you go to the next place and they've seasoned it slightly differently, or they've used different crackers. I know I'm talking a lot about food, but that's kind of where I'm at, but just unreal. So yeah, I get bored pretty easily. Who or what inspires you in your daily life? Look, this question is a really hard one, and if you watch my Proving Potential channel, you'll know that I recently did a video around values, and one of the questions is kind of listing people that inspire you. I have a lot more people in my life that inspire me now, but I think the thing that those people have in common is, I'm going to say courage. Courage to say what needs to be said when other people won't say it. Courage to share what needs to be shared so that it may help other people understand either their intention and where they're coming from, or to get on board with something that's hard or that's change or that's challenging. I think finding people who are actually authentic these days is super hard, especially on social media. And it inspires me when people tell their true stories. And here on YouTube, people that you would know, people like Meredith sharing her bariatric surgery journey. I'll link that video. Unbelievably inspiring. Amelia Rose and sharing, you know, kind of her background and her story about how she's come to build a firm that employs a lot of people. You know, one of the most inspiring people in my current life. See ya. Just walked past and always seems to do that when I'm recording things, is my husband. He's amazing. He's a very strong person. He's unapologetic for who he is. He knows what his values are. He leads people every single day. He can make hard decisions. He has had hard things happen to him in his life. Both of his parents have passed away, and he's only 51 years old. He is incredibly generous. He is incredibly thoughtful, and he's incredibly fun. So I'm very lucky. What traits or attributes attract you to other people? Probably an unexpected answer, but I can remember having a conversation somewhere that I worked a few years ago. You can probably now hear a Harley Davidson crackling away in the background because my husband's off going for a ride on this beautiful sunny day. Again, unapologetic, right? Yeah, traits. So I was having this conversation with people that I worked with, and they said, oh, you know, they had a particular type of person. And I said, I don't think I've got a particular type of person. Look at me, I'm just coming undone everywhere. And one of my co-workers nailed it and said, oh yeah, you do. You love arrogance. And I was like taken aback, and then I went, actually, yeah. And look, you know, you can get into semantics about the difference between arrogance and confidence. I don't think 100% arrogance is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but I think a bit of arrogance, a bit of mongrel in a person, I'm really drawn to that. I really want to understand how a person gets to be that sure of themselves, because, you know, I guess that's something that I want to be in my life, and those sorts of people really, really, really interest me, and it kind of draws me in. I love people that are generous. There he goes. Can you hear him? I love people that are generous with both their time and their resources. That doesn't mean throwing money around and elaborate gifts, but it means that people show you their regard for you by giving, and that's certainly one of my love languages. And time is something that's absolutely finite, and for people to give time to me is just a huge thing, and I always really appreciate it, especially at my recent Fendi event. Like, I was just so touched that people both travelled to be there, that they spent their time there on a Thursday. You know, it's a working day, and maybe they took time off work and they paid money on flights and accommodation. They came to support me, and yeah. What traits or attributes turn you off other people? Victimhood. I think bad things happen to good people just as much as they happen to bad people. I think that you always have a choice to stay right where you are, or to look at what you might be able to do to affect your situation. People that are constantly asking, why me? This isn't fair. Why would they do that? Why didn't they do something else? None of that helps a situation, and I find myself, I just switch off and I turn away. I can't engage in those conversations because it's all about apportioning blame, and that doesn't help anything. That keeps us where we are. It doesn't move us forward, and I find that the more comfortable I get in myself and the people that are around me, the more comfortable I am in just turning the other way when those sorts of conversations happen. And yeah, I'm sure it could be quite brutal at times, but I try and provide another perspective. But I've got very little tolerance for that kind of behaviour and that kind of talk in my life. People who lie is an obvious one, but lie and people who are passive aggressive. If you are in conflict with something or you disagree, figure out a way to say it instead of white-anting or going behind people's backs and not being who you truly are. 5 adjectives to describe you. Now, Meredith did ask me this one on a Q&A recently, and I did it as like a little haiku poem. I'm going to give you both positive and, you know, maybe negative or challenging adjectives to describe me. I would say that I'm authentic. I, at all times in my work and here on YouTube, will tell you what I'm thinking or feeling, whether or not it's overly professional or, you know, it might be overly vulnerable. I don't think you can truly connect with people without being authentic. And I think most of my clients would say that they find me to be somebody whose authenticity helps them to be more authentic, because that's something that most leaders are trying to be more of all the time. But a lot of organisations give people a real fear around being their true self. So that is one character adjective of myself that I'm incredibly passionate about continuing to be, and it's the hardest thing to be. I'll flip to another one, a challenging one, and say complicated. I can complicate things. I can make them more complex than they appear to be. Not logical, tangible things, but how I kind of connect my thinking around big life decisions. I am not a goal setter. There's a few people who you might watch here on YouTube who are very goal driven and very specific and very logical, and Amelia and Meredith come to mind. I'm not that person. For me, it's about setting a horizon. It's about kind of painting a picture about what the future looks like. And when there are big life decisions that come into play, I'm kind of constantly seeing a whole bunch of little dots, and I'm seeing all the connections. It's like something off Mission Impossible, and I'm trying to find a way to connect everything into, a way forward. And it can be rather frustrating, and it can take a lot of time, for both me and people around me who might be affected by it. But usually what happens with that complicated way of thinking is that I get a really fantastic outcome, and I don't quite know how I got there, but I just I just kind of, it happens. Fun and I'm going to say fun and frivolous, I suppose. I'm always looking for fun. I love to have a laugh. I am somebody who would, find something funny at a wedding and a funeral. I will make inappropriate jokes. I will laugh at farts. I love a filthy joke and terrible humour. I love Austin Powers. I love Borat. I love Jim Carrey. Things that are silly and fun. And the frivolous part is, I guess, around, abundance, that money's just a way of experiencing life. And if you've got it, experience life with people you love and have fun, and who cares if it's not responsible. YOLO, how many am I up to? 1, 2, I'm going to say fun and frivolous, maybe 2. And then the final one, I'd probably say a little bit, I don't know if it's an adjective, but I'm going to say alien. In a lot of areas of my life, I'm a bit of an alien. In my work, I'm kind of the resident alien. I kind of come in, I'm the stranger in the room, and I provide a different perspective, and I facilitate thinking with some challenges, and I throw in grenades, I call them, to get people thinking about things a bit differently, or kind of ruffle some feathers. I'm an alien in my family. There's not anyone in my family that kind of would share a similar lifestyle to me, and, or the way that our marriage works, and the fact that we've lived apart as long as we've lived together. I'm an alien in a lot of my friendship groups, in that, the things that I love talking about, like here, we don't talk about that. I'm the only one that doesn't have children in a lot of my friendship groups as well. So I tend to find I can be on the outer a bit, and whether or not I put myself there or I am there, perception is reality, and that's how I kind of see myself a little bit. So I always kind of work overtime to connect with people and fit in. What is your favourite word? I don't even know. Yes would be a pretty good word. A lot of the great things that have happened to me in my life have been because I said yes. So I'm going to say yes. What is your least favourite word? My least favourite word. I'm going to say why. And it's why because I don't think why elicits very helpful responses in people. As a coach, in the hierarchy of kind of questioning what are the most powerful questions, they tend to start with how or what, because they promote exploration and curiosity and thinking. Why kind of promotes justification, sometimes victimhood and excuses and blame, and fabrication. And I find why questions a lot of the time, they're just not helpful. So yeah, why is probably something I have little tolerance for, and I mentioned it previously, in terms of things that kind of turn me off. What sound or noise do you love? My dog. What sound or noise do I love? I love the sound or noise of people and animals. I love sleeping. Little snores, in a safe and comfy bed. I think that's really sweet. What sound or noise do you hate? Oh, my husband's going to hate me for this, but when he fires up his dirt bikes and tests them out, and I mean, it does make me laugh because it does make me laugh because of a movie that we saw where there's like, doing these hip thrusts while they were turning the throttle. Is that on Wild Hogs? It might be. But God, that sound, it just goes straight through me. It drives me crazy. So yeah, I hate that sound. And there's the bike again. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? It's something I'm thinking about a little bit now in terms of going back into the corporate world and looking at an executive role, because I come and go from a lot of organisations, that you can tend to feel a little bit, alien, as I said before, and kind of disconnected from the bigger picture. And I had a little taste of that earlier this year and I really enjoyed it. Where I did like a 4-month secondment for 2 days a week in an organisation, and I really loved that whole team feel and being part of something, that was quite big and impressive. So yeah, maybe, it's something I'm constantly thinking about, but again, bringing one of my adjectives in, I'm making it more probably complicated than it needs to be. So I'm just thinking about ways to do it, where I still have options and I will still love it and not feel kind of trapped by it. So when I talk about executive roles, they would be in general management. They may or may not be in the area of my actual, background experience, because in leadership, even though you need to have some technical skill, at that level, you're really managing a business and a number of functions. And so being a content expert can sometimes be as much of a hindrance, or more of a hindrance than a help. What profession would you not like to attempt? I never wanted to work in the food industry. I have worked in industries that support food. Even my first job, I didn't want to work fast food or around food because of how I'm quite particular, I suppose, myself in terms of cleanliness, and the amount of cleaning that's done in food, plus, the amount of things that can go wrong, and the pressure, the hours that hospitality workers do. Like, I just feel like you would have to be extraordinarily passionate about your craft to give up on those, unsocial hours, that high pressure. Like, you'd need to get a real buzz out of it, and I think that would kill my passion for cooking and food if I was to work in the food industry. 5 people, dead or alive, that you would like to have dinner with. I think I've mentioned before Princess Diana. I'd just love to know what the real story is there, and I think we'd get along well. So Princess Di, Michael Hutchins, I loved In Excess. I think, he'd have some amazing things to say. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think she's an extraordinarily fascinating woman, and she's kind of gone against the grain on many occasions, and she espoused quite a lot of the values that I love. So I'd love to have dinner with Ruth. Donald Trump. Can you imagine? Princess Di, Michael Hutchins, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Donald Trump. Just because, again, I guess I'm kind of drawn to people who are arrogant, and he is arrogant with a capital A. Geez, it would be interesting to have dinner with him. And then from a fashion perspective, I'd bring I'd bring in Coco, because I think she'd be able to handle Mr. Trump. Absolutely. I think that would be, I'd just sit back and watch the fireworks. That would be a grand show. So yeah, they're my 5 people. 2 celebrity hall passes. Oh God. I hate these questions because I'm not someone that likes to lust after people that I don't know the people, so it's just on looks alone. And people who I have been in relationship with in my life, I have known them first, nearly all the time. So these are purely on looks and the characters that they've played. And this will be interesting, but Tom Cruise, I think he's amazing. I love his arrogance. I love how sharp he is. I love how committed he is to what he does. And the characters he plays are all really, interesting to me. So definitely a Tom Cruise fan. I've got, again, just on looks, but probably Gerard Butler. He's like a man's man in the looks department. Very gruff and still very attractive looking. So yeah, they're my 2. 3 celebrities you would love to drink at the pub with. Oh, well, they'd have to be funny. So I would say Amy Schumer, Jim Carrey, and Zach Galifianakis. I think my mouth would just be aching from smiling and laughing the whole time. You're spending the next 12 months on a desert island, and you can only take 1 book, 1 movie, 1 TV series, and 1 album. Okay, I'm not a huge reader. But the book that I think I could read over and over again is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, just for daily inspiration. The 1 movie, look, laughs, would be super important. So I'm going to say Austin Powers Goldmember. I love that movie. It's like one of my absolute favourites of all time. 1 TV series, well, it would be Sex and the City, the original 6 seasons. I've already watched it over and over again. I know that I'm fully capable of it. And I continue to see new things and nuances with characters and fashion every time. In fact, I was talking to some fabulous friends at dinner the other night, and we were talking about how every time you watch, you see something else. And as years go by in your own life experiences, you kind of look at it through a different lens. So definitely Sex and the City. And 1 album, and it's on a desert island. Which album would it be? Look, this one might surprise you, but I'm choosing it because it's a double disc album and it has a bit of everything, and it's the Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Revisiting my youth, but I could still sing every word to every song on that album today. So yeah, that would be it. And the final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? I'd just like to hear that you gave more than you took. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's fair to say that I don't think it exists, so it's hard to fabricate an answer. But yeah, you gave more than you took. That's what I'd like to hear. So yeah, that is the conclusion of this very in-depth inside the YouTube studio tag. Thanks to Meredith for tagging me. Definitely very thought-provoking. Really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy it too. I'm going to tag some people in the description box and put the list of questions as well.